It is 12:59. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. News coming down moments ago from ESPN's Adam Schefter. The Indianapolis Colts are trading quarterback Carson Wentz to Washington for a package of picks that is thought to include 2 third-round picks. Sources tell ESPN. The Tennessee Titans announced earlier today 30 players have been signed to one-year deals through 2022. Defensive lineman Tier Tart, that was reported this morning by Field Yates, backup quarterback Logan Woodside, and wide receiver Nick Westbrook-Akina. This comes after last night where the Tennessee Titans extended outside linebacker Harold Landry to a 5-year, $87.5 million deal. Landry coming off a season with a career high in tackles and sacks with 12. After making the deal, the Titans will not tender restricted free agent defensive end Derek Roberson. That is per Mike Garofalo. Development in the case of Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson, as a grand jury will be presented evidence of the civil cases filed against him on Friday. Watson's attorney has maintained that he will plead the fifth until criminal charges are filed. Well, ACC tournament is in action on your TV right now. SEC tournament play will start tonight in Tampa as Ole Miss takes on Missouri for a 5 p.m. tip. And then it's Vanderbilt and Georgia going head-to-head for the right to face Alabama in the quarterfinals, a 7 p.m. tip-off. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome in, Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. This is like one of those days, if you ever tried to drink like out of a fire hose where water's just going everywhere, this is that time in the NFL. And credit the NFL because it's March Madness, and literally what we are going to talk about today is the March Madness of the NFL.
Very on brand.
All due respect, although we are going to talk to some basketball today too. But this just happened.
We're gonna push it back again tomorrow.
We're going to more Blake Lovell. Yeah, we got to call him yesterday. And look, man, we want to talk basketball, but things keep happening. More stuff is happening. So Blaine is looking at his phone. We're talking to Rhett Bryant in the other room, and you're like, I just got this weird alert on my phone. Carson Wentz got traded. We were like, huh? So we all pick up the phone. Schefter, my guy.
Yeah.
Dropping the bomb.
Best bud.
Traded to the Washington Commanders. Apparently, they've called every team about every quarterback in the league. That story came. Was that it, Lucas? The story that broke out of Indy was that Washington admitted they'd called every team about every quarterback just to see who they could get. Poor Taylor Heineke is like, I'm out here playing on blood and guts, and you guys are calling about everybody. They landed on Carson Wentz. That's who they did it. They did the deal. The Colts traded a 2021 third-rounder and what became their 2022 first-round pick to the Eagles to get Wentz a year ago. So Indy got a year out of Wentz, didn't make the playoffs. Now they've shipped him to the Washington Commanders. And the story broke this morning. They're also going to lose Eric Fisher, their tackle, that he would get bigger money and go somewhere else.
Hey, man, that's good for the Titans to a certain extent. The left tackle, as well as the starting quarterback that was only there a year. I mean, I'm interested to see how people evaluate the GM and the coach here in this instance. And I like both of these guys, and I think they're really good. You know, maybe forced their hand by Irsay because Carson Wentz, he probably played bad in the last couple games as far as turnovers. He was 27-7. 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and he got 3 of those against the Jaguars, and I think that's why they lost, or 2, and then he fumbled. One of the 2. And so I think this is forced by Irsay because they lose in their trade. First of all, they lost when they didn't make the playoffs, obviously. But now you're giving up less than what you even got him for. So all the way around, man, this is not good from anybody in the performance-based business as far as, what you claim to do. And I'm sure Reich, went out on a limb for him. And he said it. Even at the combine, he said it. I was standing there. That he went out on a limb for Carson Wentz.
Yep.
And he hoped that he would be back, but he wasn't sure. He was being honest and contrite. So Yeah, so I think Irsay was the final say so, and they said we got to move on. And so in a 1 year, so there's rumors as Marcus, is maybe Jimmy Garoppolo,
Yeah, I told you.
Trubisky,
Marcus Mariota.
That's you. Right?
That's you. That's
you
I'm
the
going to
rumor
start
mill
that
on that
rumor
one.
right
Yeah,
there.
You started. Mickey Ryan did. I thought that was a great one, actually, by the way. He's a free agent. Because if you make this move and you're the Colts, you already have to know who you're going to get.
Yep.
And Trubisky and Marcus Mariota are like the two highest profile, I think, free agent quarterbacks. They have no ties to anybody.
And Jameis.
And Jameis Winston. Don't forget that. Jameis Winston, and then, there's a lot of talk about Jimmy G getting traded. He's kind of one of the last ones to see where he lands, if not just staying in San Francisco after having the shoulder surgery. So that could have hurt a lot of different things as far as trade bait from the 49ers point of view. But, man, the Colts, the gift that keeps on giving, the National Football League, it's a soap opera. It never ends. They control the season and the off season. So, man, dominoes are falling now. Soon's, AR, Aaron Rodgers made a decision. Everything starts moving.
We said that earlier this week. As soon as Aaron Rodgers makes his decision, expect all the other dominoes to start falling. And the Russell Wilson domino fell immediately.
Yeah.
I
think they had
boom.
a little hint because Hackett was the OC of Green Bay.
Yep.
And I'm sure he was talking to, if not AR Rodgers, that is, his agent, and he had an inkling, and they started that process on Russell Wilson probably, a couple weeks ago. And, oh, by the way, I'm hearing that he may play on his contract, and it'll get redone hopefully before the season, but if not during the season, depending on what they need in cap space and everything else. So I might just see how that plays out. But Russell Wilson's high standard, high character type guy. I don't think it'll be an issue, but that was surprising just to hear that he may play on that contract started in the season. I think you told me in 19, 18, yeah.
19 and 22.
And that's a steal. Now, if they don't redo that deal, there's something wrong with them. They got to at least be in the 30 range at this point in time.
It was less than what Aaron Rodgers is going to make per year for 2 years of him. That's all that was left on his deal because, all the bonus money and everything's already been paid. So, 19 and 22, I think, were the numbers.
Some people are upset, I see, that the Carson Wentz was even traded because they wanted to play him again from the Titans' perspective. So, but yeah, making moves, man. Dominoes, man.
So obviously the free agents can't sign anywhere until the league year starts next week. Jimmy G just had surgery.
And I don't know the extent of it, and it's his throwing arm, the extent of the surgery. I don't know if it was just a scope to clean out or, how extensive it was. Nobody's saying, though.
Nope.
They say that he had the injury when they did the checkout physicals. They said, we got to go. Assuming as much as it is his throwing arm, it could be just some bone spurs on his rotator cuff, and he needs to clean it out. And, he was having issues with it during the season. I'm thinking it's something like that where the 49ers and Lynch, the GM, former player John Lynch, Hall of Famer now, seems to be not worried about it really. To be honest, I guess because he's at Trey Lance, that gives him more reps to get something going, but hurts his trade value as far as immediate though.
Sure. Lucas, you got more on this Colts deal?
Ian Rappaport just minutes ago says expect the Colts to be in the mix for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yep, I saw that one. Wentz started the season. Remember, he started injured last year. They thought he might not even play up.
But it was his ankle
until what? Like a gauntlet of a schedule. But Jimmy G's going to figure into this, like you said, Blaine. I'm trying to think of like what other trade candidate type quarterbacks are out there, because right now it's Trubisky, Jameis, Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, those are the available free agent guys.
Bridgewater's a free agent?
Yeah.
Oh. Uh-oh. All solid, but not great quarterback. So that's my whole point with the Colts move. Like, so you're going to get somebody, just those we just named. Games, yes, some games not. And then those guys are where they're at. There's a reason why they're there.
Yeah.
They were inconsistent in their play as well. So are you really upgrading? And they don't know this offense like Wentz did with Reich in their history. The head coach running the offense with the Eagles. So, man.
If anybody was going to fix Wentz, it was the guy who he played well under before. It was Frank Reich,
I firmly
like you
believe
said.
I thought that he fixed him to a certain extent. Now, did he have some relapses, as we want to call it? Yeah. I mean, but 27-7, he just had it at the wrong time. If they started off slow, as you mentioned, 0-3, but if he would have finished strong, and mind you that their offensive line, that's where they really lost the game. They were coming off of COVID. I think it was two guys, and one of them was the all-pro guy, Nelson, and they didn't play very well, but Wentz was trying to force the issue. They got to him real fast, and he just tried to, throw it, and his arms was wrapped, and then he just threw it down, and that was considered a fumble. I mean, so you can't do those things. Well, all those guys that you just named on that list, besides Garoppolo, but I'm talking about the free agent guys, they're somewhat in that same situation as far as their play.
I wonder if there were issues with Carson Wentz with his leadership, or guys didn't like him or didn't follow him, or all those things you're supposed to do with the quarterback.
I'm not sure.
And I'm not saying it. I don't know.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk there in Philly, and a lot of people said that about a lot of quarterbacks. I mean, you could say you like them or don't like them. It's always interesting when I hear that.
Yeah,
we're the pros. It doesn't matter what you like.
Yeah,
I don't like that. Now, as far as leadership, when it comes to liking and don't liking, you're going to like players on your team and not like them, but you still got to work with them.
Well, maybe I said the wrong thing, meaning more his ability to lead guys.
Right.
The guys follow him.
That could be an issue. That came out when Marcus came out. That was a big issue. Jameis Winston came out. That was a big issue. That he's Winston is flabbergasted, talking about nothing, and the guys are looking at him like, what? And then Marcus not saying a lot at all.
Nothing. Yeah.
That was part of him coming out. And is his body durable?
Yeah.
See, because the way his frame was built, he was kind of built like a wide receiver.
Yeah.
See, so all of them have some chinks in their armor. If we want to go around the list, I mean, so. I'm trying to figure out, why do you think they will be better than what you have?
The crazy thing is, too.
That's what makes me think this is a knee-jerk, and this is the owner saying he's pissed that they lost the last game. It was horrible. He shouldn't have made some of those throws. I don't care how bad the offensive line played. We got to let him go.
And
because if not, then they should be fired.
Right.
See?
Well, even the GM's kind of thrown. You said this a couple of weeks ago. We were just talking about quarterbacks or whatever, and you brought this up. The Colts have been throwing Wentz under the bus the whole offseason. Yep. They totally undermined him. There was no way he could go back.
They didn't even help his trade value, though. They undermined themselves.
They did. Congratulations. You played yourself, Colts. They did.
You tapped it. Oh, man. So
but they did.
Hey, good for the Titans, though, to be, in this situation. Man, if they don't, I would bet you if Vegas was going on right now, Lucas's Vegas, they have to be head over heels the number one seed in the and I want to follow it because in the AFC South, because I want to see if it changes when they get the new quarterback, whoever it may be. Whether it's Winston or Marcus or Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, I think the 49ers think they can trade him now, even though he had surgery.
Oh, I bet they do. And
because there's no way if he's going to the Colts, which is a lot of people are saying that's probably the best possibility, then they know he has to be there as a quarterback. He has to learn the whole new system.
While rehabbing an injury.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? That means you got to have another guy for insurance.
Yeah.
So you couldn't have, say, Logan Woodside, which Logan Woodside, by the way, got a 1-year deal. Twinkies after the nuclear holocaust, man.
Twinkies?
They always say Twinkies can survive anything.
Is that what they say?
And I don't need to be talking about nuclear holocaust right now with what's going on in the world. That joke has not fared well with all that's going on in the world. But he continues to survive.
Said that?
He got his 1-year deal. NWI got his 1-year deal. They were exclusive rights free agents, and Tierre Tart. So all the Titans had to do to keep those guys is offer them a 1-year deal, and they did.
By the way,
this is their third year, right?
Yeah, will be their third year. Yeah, they'll play him.
This is BetMGM. Titans are plus 100 to win the AFC South. Colts are plus 140. So we'll see how that number moves around.
Ooh.
Now, explain to me. I don't gamble and bet and all that. So what does that mean?
So with the Titans,
with
you can
140 and 100.
You can bet $10 to win $10 right now with the Titans to win the AFC South next season. So the Colts are just slightly better odds. And then you got the Jags at plus 550 and then the Texans at plus 2,500.
So
but I imagine the Colts number will
change once they decide on where
the odds will increase.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting who they sign. I mean, This is going to be interesting. There's a part of me I'm rooting for it to be Marcus Mariota, as you mentioned, Mickey. That was like you leg with me when you said that, man. I was like, oh, that's a good one.
I mean, we're just who is available? Who could you offer money and get them to sign with your team? You don't have to trade. You don't have to do anything. Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston.
Do you think they would
Trubisky.
sign him for 1 year? 1 year deal
I
for
would.
all these quarterbacks?
I would.
Besides Jimmy G.
I would do a 1 year deal for Jimmy G. I wouldn't because, I mean, he is who he is, but he's gotten his team to the Super Bowl. And I would do a longer deal with Jimmy G. I wouldn't on any of the other guys. Mitch Trubisky may get himself a 2 or 3 year deal.
Yeah, but if those guys play like they think they will, they're also thinking 1 year, then
Bet
I'm
on
going to hit
myself.
the home run.
Oh, then I get 30 next time
Mhm.
for a bunch of years. Yeah. Rap sheet here, full terms. Commanders get Carson Wentz. The Colts get this year's third rounder and next year's third rounder that can convert to a second based on last year's incentives, it says. So 2 third rounders, one that could be a second. Andrew's on the line. Andrew, we do have to take a break. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll take Andrew's call. Then Blake Lovell is set to join us as well. Lonzo says we need to bring Marcus back to the Titans.
And I'm going to go to break on. Stop that.
We'll be back. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Blake Lovell will be with us in just a minute. Blue Ribbon Yearbook and 14 Southeastern14.com. We'll talk a little bit about the SEC tournament, but there's so much going on in the NFL. And Andrew from Portland joins us now. Andrew, thanks for calling Blaine and Mickey on the Mark Spain hotline. How you doing?
What's going on?
Well, I'm a little disappointed in the news that we're not going to get to play Wentz twice a year. I
know,
enjoyed him throwing
right?
us
I
balls.
think others are as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to see it. It's crazy to me when I heard this. It kind of just instantly reminded me of Nick Foles. So if you look back at 2017, Wentz was playing like with an MVP type season. He gets hurt, and Nick Foles saves the day, leads the Eagles through the playoffs to a Super Bowl victory, and then it's like they both just fell off. So Nick Foles signs 4 years with the Jags for $88 million in 19, I think it was. And then he's traded the very next year for a fourth-round pick to the Bears, where he can't even get on the roster behind the quarterback of Mitch Trubisky. And now you get Wentz, who just traded to the Colts last year for draft capital, and now they're shipping him away. And it's like it's just amazing to me how quickly you can fall off in the NFL. The NFL just never ceases to amaze. 2017, these guys are on top of the world. And Doug Peterson didn't even coach last year, and now he's coaching for the Jags. So it's mind-blowing how quickly in the NFL you can wash up if you don't learn to adapt. So hate to see him go, but, we'll see how he plays out in Washington.
What do you think about if Marcus went to the Colts?
No.
No, you don't want to see that.
There's no need for that mess. He's injury prone. I love him to death. Wish him the best, but no.
All right. Andrew in Portland's out on that. You've talked a lot about the different types of guys in the league, and a lot of guys that even in college, I don't want to, maybe easy for them, but they don't necessarily have to work that hard. They have so much God-given talent. They can survive and thrive at the highest level. But when you get to the NFL, everybody's fast, everybody's big, everybody's great. And it is amazing sometimes to see guys who don't continue to grow and adapt, and they kind of get left behind. And I don't know about Wentz. We don't know him. I don't have any relationship with him or anything. But, I mean, he was right. I mean, he was competing for an MVP award. Now he's on his third team in 3 years.
And I'm wondering if the injuries really contribute to that. And when he played bad, he's actually showed his toughness, which you can't question his toughness even before that. I think he had back surgery, knee surgery. I mean, man, when you start talking about that, and I think that's what ended his MVP. He was going to win it. It was no way around it. And he missed like the last 5 games or so. He had back surgery. Then he came back, had ACL tear. So you wonder if the injuries just add up, and he just can't recapture where he was and continue to evolve and develop and grow as a quarterback, because he was still ascending at that time. So it's unfortunate. What I hear about him, he's a really good dude, and just hate to see it, but hey, that's the nature of the business, and it's a big boy business. You don't produce, they move on, whether coach or player. It's never changed. The money has changed, but the thought process in it, it's a producing game. So yeah, that's why this coming year, Tannehill will be in that situation. It's going to happen. They can get out of his contract this year. So if he doesn't produce, and I'm betting that he will, we got to keep him. Mm-hmm.
How concerned will you be? You brought up Tannehill. Because remember last year during fall camp, it's like, he threw another couple of picks today. Yeah. Gosh, he turned the ball over again today in practice. Gosh, he did it again. He never did this before. And you said, and people were like, it's just Tannehill. He'll figure it out. You said
because he had already produced, so they look past it. You can't do that. That's not sports. And people do it all the time. They were doing it to combine. Oh, since he was great at first, he's fine. And no. He needs to perform just like them.
How concerned will you be if we get into camp, pretty deep into camp, and the story is a couple more picks today by Tannehill, a couple more today?
I will be. And our defense is going to be really good. So that was part of it. But I would get a little concerned. I got concerned last year because, the Miami people just kept ragging on me every time I went on their show about how well Tannehill was playing, and he did.
Right.
Those 2 years before last year. And they said, nah, that's not who he is. I said, hey, man, all I'm going by is what I see. And this is what's going on. I don't know what he did in the past. So I'm just going to tell you what I'm seeing today. And then this year, I have a theory, and I could be totally off basis. And I've said this before, and I'm not a doctor, so that gives you a little hint where we're going. I think the COVID shots affected some players. I just think it did. I don't know how and in what way. I just think it did. And I think Tannehill really didn't want to take the shot. Yeah. He did it as a team deal. As we see, Aaron Rodgers did not. Yeah. And there were some other ones, and it got out. And maybe Aaron Rodgers is also upset that got out. See, so there's a lot of things why he's doing what he's doing. Because it took almost the whole freaking season before we even know. I think it was week 10 or something like that when we found out when he got injured or something. So I think it affected him. I really do. I don't know how. And I think it affected other players too. And I'm talking about more for injuries and things of that nature. That's why I brought the same issue up when Carson Wentz played. I said the offensive linemen were out with COVID and they came back and they weren't the same and they didn't play very well. Even Quentin Nelson, the beast guard, who's the best in the business. So I don't know how. I just feel it based off what I'm seeing and talking to different players in the league. Some feel like it didn't bother to affect them at all. Some players do.
Well, and having COVID.
Having COVID.
The fact that dudes came right back and played as soon as they came off the COVID list, the guys who had it, I couldn't walk around my block after I had it.
I'm always interested to see if the league just manipulated guys coming back too soon from if you actually had COVID. Now, I know there's a difference between testing positive and you have no symptoms.
Right.
To if you actually had COVID.
Yeah.
So I don't know where everybody stacks up on that, but I just have a theory. I just think when they asked Tannehill about that, this is the first time I ever saw him a little flustered and didn't want to answer the question. It's the only time I've actually ever seen him that.
Yeah.
And so I think he felt very uncomfortable doing the shot, and he did. And then I think, sometimes it can play mind games on you. Some guys just don't want to put, Kyrie Irving. And he's not doing the shot. All of a sudden now, it's weird. He doesn't want to do the shot, but teams, guys on the other team that don't have the shot, they can come in and play in their, in their stadium. Right. It was just weird.
Yeah.
I mean, so
Cole Beasley was another guy who was like, I'm not doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just never know what's going on in their lives, but ultimately you got to produce. And he had a year we hadn't seen from him, and that's Tannehill. So I'm interested to see how he responds. And I think he's a competitor and tough dude, and I think he's going to come out like gangbusters. So I'm banking on that, not even knowing him really well, just based off what I've seen from him.
Well, you, J-Rob, organization, everybody's banking on him.
Yeah, because, what people must remember, and I know it was bad timing, every now and then you're going to have a bad game. That's why I thought I don't like even the Carson Wentz deal here, to be honest. He 27-7. Did he have some bad games? Well, he only threw 7 picks. Yeah. Well, when he threw them, they were bbad time, probably. Yeah. Guaranteed in the Jaguars game it was, because they could have won the game. It's embarrassing.
Stadium
and the
full of
owner's
clowns.
pissed, and it's the quarterback. Yeah, well, he had a chance to get out of that contract, and he did. The Titans really didn't have a way to get out of that contract. So they had to stick by their guns, and this thing was really going to happen, but you can never say never. Yeah. Hey, and by the way, Mickey, props to you. They signed Harold Landry. I did not think they were going to do it. They went all out. Yeah. They want to keep the fort. I think Lucas said that as well. I think everybody wanted that, including myself, but I didn't think it was going to happen because I'm trying to figure out how they're allocating money to a position group. As a GM, you must know you can only allocate so much. So now we're talking about Harold Landry paid, Dupree paid, Autry paid. Now Jeffrey Simmons is going to get paid. Whether you want to do it this year, I hope they do, which means they could sign him even once the season starts because they don't have to immediately. But if you want to get him for a bargain basement price, and that's, and what he's going to get on the market, this guy's going to get 20 and upwards per year. So maybe you pay him a little above now and get him a long-term deal. By the end, 3 years in, you're home free with a cheap discount, considering his talent and what he's doing on the football field. So that's what I was thinking more so than not.
We can certainly talk about that some more, too. Yeah, some good discussion about that yesterday, and Landry did wind up getting his long-term deal. Let's talk a little bit of basketball. Our guy Blake Lovell, who was kind enough to move yesterday because things got crazy, and Blake, then things are crazy again today. And, by the way, just throw March Madness into all that as well. How you doing, man?
Good, guys. Come on, NFL. Give us 1 week out of the year. Just give me one.
No, Blake. The first question is, what do you think about the Carson Wentz trade, man?
Yeah.
That's our first question, man.
I think the Titans probably, some Titan fans would have probably rather him stayed, but I guess that's my opinion. But yeah, it's like you said, it never stops, does it? So.
The fact that one sport can manage to dominate the calendar the way that league does is pretty amazing. But this is college basketball's month. Let's give them their due. Blake Lovell, he is at the Blake Lovell on Twitter. 14 Southeastern, Blue Ribbon Yearbook as well. So it's been a couple days in the rearview mirror now, but the Vols cracked the top 10. They beat Arkansas at home in a heart-stopping game. How's your confidence level in the Big Orange right now with all that's transpired and now them, on a plane headed down to play this SEC tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it recently. I mean, I think they finished the season playing really, really well. I mean, I really going into that Arkansas game at the end, I think I said, hey, you can really look at Tennessee and Arkansas and say they're playing just as well as anybody. I mean, put them in there with Kentucky and Auburn, and certainly we know how dominant those four teams were, but yeah, I mean, for them to finish the way they did beyond that Texas game, which was just completely ugly, I mean, they have been fantastic since then, again, aside from just whatever happened at Arkansas. But, yeah, they've got to be confident going into this tournament. And I think it goes back to, I know we've talked about this before, just their guards. I mean, when all their guards are clicking, man, they can be really good. And even though it's been a year that's been kind of dominated by the big men with Oscar Tshiebwe and Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith, it's still, in my opinion, a league that's kind of driven by guards. And when those guys, Vesely, Chandler, Ziegler, and I mean, I think the X factor's Josiah Jordan James. I mean, I think he's been kind of the real reason they've come along. They've got to feel confident heading into this. And oh, by the way, guys, I think they're in the best part of the bracket to me. I think that top part of the SEC tournament bracket could be just a brawl. I think the bottom, I'd be surprised if anyone other than Tennessee and Kentucky coming out of there. So,
Blake Lovell, our guest, thinking a little March Madness talk here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Blake, I'm gonna go back to the beginning here, and I know the tournament, SEC tournament's in Tampa Bay. Kind of take me through how it got to be in Tampa Bay.
I wish I could give you an answer on that, Blaine. As a native Nashvilleian here, I think all of us would like to be just walking over to the arena here in a few hours and make it a lot easier. But, I mean, it's a great question because I thought – I'm thinking back, was it 2009, I think, was the last time they went to Tampa. And, I mean, we have to be honest, the SEC was not as good back then in terms of having as many teams, good. And even at that point back then, it still felt like all the talk is around Kentucky and Florida. And I know I look back at that tournament actually, and, the attendance was very poor. And I was trying to think back, why was the attendance so poor at that one in Tampa? Well, when you looked at the semifinals, it wound up being a double-digit seed Auburn, which, again, that's not a Bruce Pearl Auburn team. LSU, Mississippi State, and Tennessee, which, no offense to any four of those fan bases, but it's like, I think when you look back at it then, it's to not have Kentucky or Florida, in those final couple days, I think that really impacted the attendance. And, I mean, it just impacted overall because it's not a drive, right? Like, I remember driving to St. Louis several years ago. That's different here from Nashville, but driving to Tampa, that's a bigger task. So, so I think that's it. And the good thing is, after this tournament, it'll be back here for seemingly forever. I guess the next 10, 11 years, I think now. So I'm very curious because remember we talked all year about how good those top four teams have been at home in their buildings, and now you put them in a neutral environment, which I think will probably still be dominated by Kentucky fans, but I think you'll have Tennessee fans, you'll have Auburn, Arkansas, you'll get some LSU and Alabama there. I mean, Florida, it's in Florida. I would be surprised if they don't have a nice little group there. So that's going to be fascinating because I think that can make the tournament very interesting because those teams have been so dominant at home. Not to say they've been bad on the road, but it's a different challenge when you go into these neutral court tournament type situations.
We're with Blake Lovell. I guess to add to that then, which is the teams, besides the top four, is a team that you think can make a run and be difficult when they match up against one of these top four ranked teams in the SEC tournament?
I'll tell you guys, me and Chris Lee, we did our bracket this morning, and I always push him. I say, we have to do a normal bracket and we have to do a chaos bracket. And I said, if we do a chaos bracket, I said there's only one way this thing can end, and that is with the ultimate chaos team of Alabama winning the whole thing. Because, I mean, it's just, you think about it, guys. We talked about it. I mean, Alabama's beating Gonzaga. They've beaten Baylor. They've beaten the top 2 seeds in this tournament this year. And it's just, at any time, they could just turn it on and beat anybody because they shoot so many threes. And if they're on, they can. They can beat anyone in the country. And so I think Alabama, the team, is the 6th. Certainly one to keep an eye on. But I also told Chris, I said, hey, if they're going to get to the championship and you want chaos, who are they going to play? Well, LSU's got a little extra motivation after yesterday. So, I mean, they're a 5 seed. I think that LSU, if they're at full strength all year long, they would be higher than a 5 seed right now because they play like a 2 or 3 seed just in terms of, defense travels. We always talk about it. They're one of the best defensive teams in the country. They've now got Xavier Pinson back, that missing piece on offense, I think, for them. If we get LSU Arkansas, that's going to be just a battle in that rounds. And then I think, one of those teams certainly has a chance to beat Auburn. And so I think it's those 2 teams, LSU, Alabama. Again, I'm not really going off the radar here since that's the 5 and 6 behind those top 4. But those are the teams to keep an eye on because we've seen it all year. They're good enough to beat anybody. It's just, can they put it together in this tournament?
It's just so exciting to see how the SEC and watching them evolve in the basketball programs and see how well they are matched up against other conferences now, which you could say the SEC is right there at the top. How many teams do you think is going to make the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, it's 6 right now, and usually I feel like we're in a scenario where a team is just waiting to fall out. But it's 6 locks that there's no way any of those 6 are falling out. They're all going to be top 6 seeds, which, again, I think that speaks to the impressive strength of the SEC to have essentially all 6 of your teams as top 6 seeds. Then it's going to come down to Florida and A&M to me. Florida right now, I think if Florida wins 2, if they beat A&M at the top of the bracket and then they beat Auburn, then I think Florida's a lock to get in. I don't think you can keep them out at that point, having 2 wins over Auburn and then some other good wins elsewhere. A&M, it's a lot closer than people think because they finished strong here. And I think if they beat Florida and then they go on to beat Auburn, I think it's close. I would not feel as confident if I was them as I was if I was Florida. So I think A&M probably needs to win 3 to get in. Florida needs to win 2. Mississippi State, could they beat South Carolina, beat Tennessee? Sure they could. But Mississippi State has been downright awful away from Starkville this year. They're talented enough to do it. I think they've got to get to the championship game. And really, guys, those are the only 3 teams I think that we're even factoring into this equation. Vanderbilt, I would have said maybe a couple weeks ago, had they not, just given that game away against Florida. Yeah. And they had a chance to beat Alabama here too. So if they get one of those games, then maybe we get into that Vanderbilt conversation. But unfortunately, the way they finish the season, they just don't have the resume to support it without winning at all.
Blake, good stuff, man. Appreciate you swinging on for a quick visit today. We'll continue to check in, obviously, throughout the month and certainly again next week as we look towards the big dance. Thank you, buddy. People need to follow you at the Blake Lovell, 14 Southeastern. You and Chris Lee, it's Entity as well as Blue Ribbon Yearbook. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, Blake.
Thanks, guys. Tell
Yes,
those
sir.
NFL teams to hold off on those trades on the next time around. So tell Schefter to wait for the next big trade when I come on next time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Him
you
and
know.
Mickey are best buds. Man.
Yeah, my man,
for sure.
Schefter. Hey, thank you, Blake. Thank you,
Thanks,
man.
guys.
Titans did make some moves today. We hinted at them a little bit, but we'll tell you who's sticking around and who's not. That's next on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. I'm PO'd. We got the ACC tournament on, and Boston College is wearing gray uniforms that say the Heights on it.
I didn't even know who they were until they came up on the screen. I was like, man.
Gray uniforms
And
that
it says
say
the Heights.
The Heights.
Is that a nickname? Is that something
I don't know.
I've never heard of that.
It's an event on national television. Wear your name and your colors. They're on TV in Nashville, Tennessee. You could see Boston College, and what does a basketball game take? Hour and 40 minutes, 2 hours to play. You have yourself an infomercial on TV with your logo and your colors, and they got the Heights on gray uniforms.
Maybe it's the
The
ACC
AD
tournament.
is
Maybe
kicking
they ran
in.
out of, they're down to their third jerseys now. The white ones and the dark ones, so because they couldn't wash them.
They got those
went further
dudes
than
that
they thought.
work like dogs that wash everything all
I said,
night
the Heights.
long.
I said, oh, who was that?
Come
Then
on,
the
man.
ticker came up there. You could see who scored what. But yeah, that's just as bad as someone thinking here, Hampton United saying that Ryan Tannehill threw 3 interceptions because he had the vaccine shot. No, I was saying that he didn't play very well the entire season because he felt very uncomfortable, and some people just are that kind of way, and then it got in his head because he didn't perform anywhere near. And I don't make up excuses for anybody for whether it's a shot or receivers missing, O-line missing. He just didn't look like the same player for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. So I do agree with Nick, though, here that this is basically a contract year for Tannehill. Absolutely. He was definitely listening.
Here's who's coming back, and we'll get to Greg in just a second because he wants to continue the Landry discussion. NWI, Nick Westbrook-Akina gets a 1-year deal. He was an exclusive rights free agent. So was Logan Woodside, also a 1-year deal for him. Tierra Tart gets a 1-year deal. That exclusive rights free agent means you've played 2 years or less on the field. You have 2 years or less of service. So all the team's got to do to keep you is just offer a 1-year minimum deal.
Yeah, and I actually did all of those.
Yeah.
I signed a
We've
2-year
never named
contract.
anything that you haven't like, oh, I did that. Oh, I got that.
Yeah. I was a 2-year contract guy since I was a late round pick, and then you become exclusive rights, and then I was franchise until the 4th year. Yeah, so they really have control of you until you reach year 4, regardless of your contract length earlier in your career.
It's another way to do that.
Mm-hmm, because, and then just think why they make the league minimum average is how long do you play?
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why they do it. Because then you get all the benefits after that.
It's all a math problem. Derek Roberson not coming back. He was a restricted rights free agent, meaning they had to tender him a contract that he could try to match somewhere else. They didn't offer him anything. They're going to let him walk. That was
Solid player, but he just had some injury issues.
Sure did. Played 16 games over 3 years.
Yeah.
Greg in Rhode Island joins us next on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. What's going on, Greg? How you doing?
Yeah, Marcus Johnson.
What's up, guys? Doing good. You know,
Great.
I think one of the reasons that the Titans were willing to pay Harold Landry to keep him around for so long, I think Mike Vrabel sees a lot of himself in the player, not just because he plays the same position, but because he's versatile, he's a hard worker, he's gritty, and like when Vrabel made the Pro Bowl, he was racking up forced fumbles, sacks, interceptions. Like Landry brings all that to the table. You know, he's not just this one-dimensional player that gets sacked, and yet he, is a sack leader. So, I'm so happy he's back. I know it's a little bit of an overpay, but what he brings to the table on all those fronts, it's huge.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. Yeah, completely agree with that.
Hey, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Still
Yeah.
there? What's the weather like in Rhode Island today?
I'm driving, and I can barely see it snowing. It's not.
Oh, man. All right, be safe, buddy.
Oh, good
All right,
call
later.
there, man.
Yes,
you
sir.
can see on the collar there where they call from.
Yeah, they tell Lucas where they're from. He is, if I'm not mistaken, that's Greg, who's a regular listener. He's a weatman in Rhode Island. So
that's
he's,
right.
Yeah. So he is. He interacts with the show. He calls the post-game show after games. He's watching in Rhode Island. Can't see because it's no. We're supposed to get a little bit more of that stuff Friday night into Saturday.
But to his call, though, the Titans fans should be jacked up right now about this. Having the 4 guys coming back, in place, just that alone puts you in the hunt because they hunt. Mm-hmm. And Harold Landry, he hit it right on the head. He's a multifaceted, player that can do a lot of different things. So they went out on them. That tells me they're serious about this run. And I'm interested to see how long they can carry it and how long they think it will last. But this tells me there. I mean, I don't know Bud Dupree's contract. Like, I know how long it is, but like, can they get out of his contract just like Tannehill's after 2 years? Or those things. Tannehill after this season. That way they'll have more room to sign Simmons. Would the cap be different and they give somebody an extension or a new contract to make it light? And then how did they come up with these numbers? I'm a numbers guy, but not into the salary cap like this. And it only counts $5 million versus the cap. How did they do that? And do we have Ben Verino? We need him on.
I saw him walking the other day down the street.
Oh, he was
I hollered
walking?
at him. Yeah, my son and I were out riding around in my truck, and we
man.
hollered.
Oh, y'all live in the same neighborhood.
Well, we live close because he was walking right down the street.
Yeah, so
Okay,
I'm
you ready
interested.
for this?
I don't know.
You ask. I had it pulled up because you know me.
Yeah.
I always have it ready. Bud Dupree, dead cap hit after 2021 was 33,750. His dead cap hit, meaning if you're like, sorry, man, you got to go.
Okay.
His dead cap hit this year, 28.8. His dead cap hit in 2023 is 9.6.
Yes,
With a cap hit of 20.2.
Oh.
Meaning 10 plus if you say, thank you, man. Thank you for everything.
Because to me, if he doesn't get 10 or more and impacts the game,
Yep.
This is 1 year removed now. So to me, my standard changes on how I'm, I know he was out there a lot and he toughed through it and he made them a better group. But at the same time, the numbers have to start equaling to the pay.
Yep.
Like I said before. So it'll be interesting to see if he doesn't get 10 sacks or impacting these games. I mean, they got him and Landry on side with Archery and Sam. I mean, it should be like, Dupree's back to old Dupree.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then it goes like, they in trouble. They in some serious trouble.
We read through the schedule yesterday. They're going to need to put some people in trouble because they play everybody next year. Everybody. Everybody.
Or Mickey, Lucas, do you have this pulled up?
I got it. We can go through it again next.
Oh, no. I'm talking about how many wins do they say the Titans going to win this year? Every year they say like
Vegas.
9.
Vegas. Is that out yet? Win totals from Vegas? Did you have that yesterday?
The schedules are out, so I was assuming.
Well, the who they play on the road and at home, we can go through that again. Also, this is a discussion we need to start having is Harold Landry got paid. As Blaine said, everybody can't keep getting paid.
I got that one wrong, yeah.
So who's got to go? We got to get into all this next. It's Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
Oh, Lyman.
Go.
It is 2:02. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzika. The NFL breaking news cycle continues to churn. An hour ago, Adam Schefter of ESPN reporting the Indianapolis Colts are trading quarterback Carson Wentz to Washington. Ian Rappaport of NFL Network came out with the full terms. Washington receives Carson Wentz. Indianapolis gets this year's third rounder, next year's third rounder that can convert to a second based on last year's incentive. Also, the Tennessee Titans officially announced today the extension, or a one-year deal rather, signed by three different players: wide receiver Nick Westbrook-Akina, backup quarterback Logan Woodside, as well as the last one, Field Yates reported, defensive lineman Tier Tart, a one-year extension through 2022. SEC tournament play starts tonight in Tampa. Ole Miss taking on Missouri for a 5 p.m. tip-off. And then Vanderbilt and Georgia go head-to-head for the right to face Alabama in the quarterfinals. That game, a 7 p.m. tip-off. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Halfway through the week show, we're at the nexus of the Sports Talk universe. I had no idea what day it was until Blaine and Lucas told me after we had already started the show today. I was under the assumption it was Thursday. It's only Wednesday, people. We're in this together. It's 2:03.
Got so much news is breaking.
Oh, my gosh.
It's slowing everything down for you.
What did you have, Lucas?
Me, anyway.
You tweeted out yesterday like the exhausted person sitting on the bus bench, like, can we keep this up? It's just a mile a minute things coming out.
Lucas loves this stuff.
It does make the day go by faster, but at the same time, it makes the week go by slower. Like, it's really weird. The Calvin Ridley news was the biggest news of the day on Monday. That broke in the second hour of this show, and that feels like it was 3 weeks ago. We've had multiple blockbuster trades since then, and we found out what Aaron Rodgers is doing.
I raised my hand.
Yeah, that was nice.
I felt like, can we still use, since we missed him, Calvin Ridley on the ding-dong?
Oh, no, we can save Calvin Ridley for the ding-dongs on Monday.
I feel like it'd be somebody else being a ding-dong.
The statute of limitations begins at about 1:40 p.m. every Monday.
Right.
Oh, okay.
By the way, reverse ding-dong. We do ding-dong of the week, by the way, on Mondays.
You reversed it?
Mark Spain Real Estate. Reverse ding-dong to Roger Goodell in the NFL, because let me tip my cap to them. Like 5 guys in history have been busted for gambling, I think. 2 of them were in, 1963 or 4. Paul Hornung and Alex Karras. So that's literally
Art Schlichter. I remember that because
Art Schlichter is one. So that's literally 60% of them. None of them have happened in the last 40 years or so almost. One was over 50 years ago. You have to make this announcement that you busted the guy. So when do you do it? Monday of this week, knowing Aaron Rodgers is about to get traded or go somewhere, then all the other quarterback dominoes are going to fall. Just put it out today. It will be completely forgotten in 24 hours. And there was so much other news that came out yesterday.
Typically, they do it on Fridays.
Yes, the classic 5 o'clock Friday news dump.
As ding-dong-ish as it was, do you think a year is too much or not enough?
I mean, I think the punishment is fine, but, I don't think that you should be losing more time for gambling than a lot of players have for, domestic violence,
right?
Sexual assault in many cases.
Remember, initially, Ray Rice, I think, only got 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 games.
Yeah.
2 games. I mean,
till the video footage came out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Kareem Hunt was it half a season? I think 8 games he got for the altercation that was caught on camera.
So it tells you that integrity of the game is more important than anything else.
Integrity in life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well said, young man.
Yeah, there you have it. Oh, Lucas, spitting game today.
Wise beyond my years.
Yeah.
For everybody who is, ready to jump out of the boat with Tannehill, or you wanted to spend half the team and all the draft picks because we saw what it took to get Russell Wilson, so probably would have taken more than that to get Aaron Rodgers. I know a bunch of Titans fans are down on Tannehill. It could. Let me just tell you this. Here's an exercise in it could always be worse. This is from Zach Kiefer, who covers the Colts. It's not just 5 quarterbacks in 5 years. It will be 6 different week 1 starters dating back 6 years for the Colts. If you're just joining us, Carson Wentz traded to the Commanders today. 2017, Scott Tolzien. Could you pick him out of a police lineup right now?
I forgot he was even in the league.
Former LSU quarterback, right?
Scott Tolzien. 2018, Andrew Luck. 2019, Jacoby Brissett. 2020, Phillip Rivers. 2021, Carson Wentz. 2022, who will it be? And you said this earlier. You don't just trade your guy away without a plan. So they know who their
targets are.
Yeah, they know.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have a plan B because you just flushed plan A down the toilet. Along with the first-round draft pick that he – because we were sitting around before the show. This happened right before we came in. It's like, well, who could they draft? It's like, oh, crap, they don't even have a first-round pick. So they don't have a first-round pick.
Good for the Titans, man. But, man, I don't even understand how the organization, ownership could even just sit there and think that they can win with changing quarterbacks like this over a 5-year window. You say 6 years. I mean, man.
That's per Zach Kiefer.
Man, that is, man, got to have some consistency there at the quarterback, let alone his play. And maybe that's why they heads up off the bus real quick, man. That's a straight message that you don't get it done, you're out.
I'm trying to find where they even pick in the second round.
Doesn't matter. Maybe they'll trade something else to move into the first round. Who knows? Hey, I'm not cheering for the Colts, but man, that just how this looks from the outside. I mean, you do that. I mean, Frank Wright's been there the whole entire time, hasn't he? At least 5 years. He started right when Vrabel started, right?
Yeah, this will be year 5 for those guys. So he would have missed out on one of those.
Yeah, and he's a former quarterback in the National Football. He knows what it looks like. He's especially, let alone he was a backup, but he started a lot of games. So I mean, he's been a coach for a long time and a good guy. So man, that's just that's tough. That's tough on your team too. I mean, we just sit there and saw Darius Leonard said 5 quarterbacks in his first 5 years in the league. Different starters. I mean, man, that tells you, man, we're not going to win if we can't have any consistency. And by the way, it was a note to Carson Wentz, best of luck and loved having you on the team and stuff like that.
All class from Darius Leonard.
So they liked him.
They don't pick until 47. Then they don't pick again until 82. Then they don't pick again until 118.
They are signing your list of players at quarterbacks, and your man's at the top.
I mean, what'd you just get from the Commanders? 2/3? You call the 49ers and go, do you want 2/3 for Jimmy G and his broken wing? And think about it, Blaine. They've had like
his
50 million
wing.
Yeah.
Not the other wing.
They've had like $50 million in cap space, arguably the best offensive line in the NFL, which supposedly their left tackle's pulling up stakes and leaving for more money. Their defense is all killers. Think about it, what they've wasted. And they haven't won the AFC South in everybody else. Even the Jags have won it since the last time the Colts won it. And I know they could be good. I'm not trying to jinx anything or put anything on anything. But when people talk about the AFC South, it's always like, oh, Colts. They got the best coach. Mm-hmm. They got the best GM. Remember, people are trying to give them the Colts until they didn't make the playoffs. They were going to have the coach of the year, the GM of the year, the offensive MVP. They were going to have all that stuff. They got nothing to show for any of this. Nothing.
Yahoo! Yes! Colts go down.
Feels good to say that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I have zero sympathy for them. Now you trade a first in a year where you're going to need a quarterback and you don't have a first. So who's going to be there at 47?
They're not getting the draft, so go down your list. You put out there on social media.
Marcus Mariota.
That's a great one. How would you like them apples, man? I'd love to see him and Big Jeff run into each other.
I think I know who would win that. And Big Jeff can chase people down. Mm-hmm. Big Jeff is a sophisticated cyborg who was sent back in time.
All the rest of the dudes. Autry, who's going to be playing his old team. Bud Dupree.
Who's going to be playing on two good legs. And Harold Landry, unless his wallet weighs him down from that big paycheck.
I don't think he's
it
that
ain't
kind
going
of dude.
to. No. I just meant its money is so heavy.
He may not get as many sacks he got this year, but he's going He's going to be solid.
Oh, no, he's
That's just who his game is.
the wildest of wild cards. You said this yesterday, I even thought about it. When we were trying to figure out, okay, they didn't franchise Landry, which if you're just landing on planet Earth in a spaceship, they didn't franchise Landry, but he got $87.5 million over 5
million
years.
versus the cap.
Yes.
Wow.
And you said, well, think about this.
First year.
Bud Dupree wasn't himself last year. Now he's going to be fully healed. They're going to get the best version of Bud Dupree, which they did all this last year, not getting the best of Bud Dupree.
Mm-mm.
I mean, they couldn't. He was coming off of an ACL in December, which one of the things we're going to have to talk about is this mock drafts that had the Titans taking Jamison Williams. That's the latest one, the Alabama wide receiver.
I'm definitely not going outside linebacker now.
His got hurt in January. No outside linebacker. But I think the focus now is either, depending on who leaves with the offensive line, because I had teased this, you paid Landry, who's got to go. That's what I said as we were finishing the last segment, starting the second hour, because not everybody can get paid. So does Saffold have to go then?
Yeah, I think it's going to probably be Saffold, and Ben Jones is going to be up to debate. He is a free agent.
Free agent.
And I think he's going to get more than they want to spend at this time, or they can allocate to the offensive line. The survivor all this, was going to be up for debate anyway, is Lawan, whether you kind of maneuver his contract a little bit, pay cut, or give him some money up front. So he, right now his contract looks like he's, just a solid paid starting offensive tackle.
His contract's it's not out of line at all.
Yeah.
Lawan's contract, is it? Not for a starting left tackle.
Yeah.
Bam is checking in.
Bam.
Let's get our guy Bam in here right quick before
Rivers
we say hello to Luke Worsham. What's going on, Bam?
What up, homies? How y'all feeling? Everybody doing all right?
Yeah, we're doing
Always.
great.
Good deal. So, look, man, here's my thing on it. I'm loving what we're doing with the defense, and I said this earlier. It's going to be this offense. That's what's kind of scaring me right now. Like, I'm sorry, but it's just like I got to regain my faith in Tannehill. And with that being said, I feel like they need to put the weapons around him. Okay, are we going to go get another receiver? Are we going to go get a good tight end? You got Zach Ertz out here. You got, I've seen people talking about Gronk. I don't necessarily think that'll work, but, it's going to be what we do on this offense. I think, I honestly feel like we need to keep Julio, because I feel like Julio is going to start showing this year, especially if we can keep him healthy. But now that we know that we got Tannehill for real, him, AJ, Julio, and Ryan need to be working out every day together. Like, that chemistry needs to be so on point. If we need to go get Juju Smith, you know what I'm saying? If Juju's out there, who knows? DK may walk. I don't know. Put the Ole Miss boys back together. It's just, what are we gonna do since we have to put up with Tannehill this year to boost his confidence and get him in a better place? If we don't do that, it don't matter how much we paid Landry, how much we kept this defense together. Them boys could go get 25 sacks in a game, and all it takes is for Ryan to throw 2 picks in a game, and we back on the couch again. I can't take that no more.
It's neither, Bam.
Yeah, you hit it right on the point, man. Yeah, I completely agree with that. So you try to build up, you try to get some more weapons around them. I think you have to tweak the offense a little bit, and we must not forget, as much as nobody's going to make any excuses, different coordinator. So if you say we sit down and we go over the offense, and you're the quarterback, and you're not liking some of the things, and the coordinator's kind of like, well, I kind of like these things. And, no argument, but you're just not feeling comfortable, let alone you have guys in and out of the lineup, timing and rhythm. So I'm with him. They need to make sure, especially Julio, to get on the same page, because it's a rhythm deal and you got to trust in who you're throwing to. Because I keep going back to, why did he throw to NWI at the end of the game? Because he trusts him. Even though he hadn't thrown to him all game, at least he didn't have a reception.
Right.
He threw to him because he trusts him.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you go to your dude. I don't care if they're double team. Go to your dude.
Yep.
So obviously he has some trust there. So the trust is really important, undervalued as players, especially offensively and timing and rhythm and everything else. So they definitely need to work that. And I think they may go offense. They may. And it may. I don't even know when they pick if an elite tight end will be there. Like an elite. At 26, I don't know.
Nobody that elite. Yeah.
So they may weight their team immediately.
Yes, sir. I'll tell you who can impact our team immediately is Luke Worsham, and he joins us next from A to Z Sports. We're going to talk all this Titan stuff. We'll just keep this topic going next on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Let's get our guy Luke Worsham in here from A to Z Sports. Luke, what in the world's going on with you today? Have you been busy enough trying to keep up with all the NFL moves the last couple of days?
You know, it was 2 weeks of nothing, and then these last 2 days have been sort of pure chaos in the NFL world. It has been tough to keep up. I mean, and what's funny is you'll often see reaction to news before you see the actual news itself. So, like, you know, I go away for an hour and work on something, and then, you know, I come back and open Twitter, and the first tweet I see is like, man, the football team, or not the football team, the Commanders and Wentz. And you're like, wait, you have to go and start searching for the news. But that's where we've been these last 2 days.
Well, you brought that up. Certainly we'll talk about Titans stuff. But as Zach Kiefer, who covers the Colts, pointed out, this will be their 6th year in a row that they start a different quarterback on opening day. And a lot of people talking about 5 straight seasons with a different starting quarterback for the season. Don't know who it's going to be yet, but it will not be Carson Wentz. They've already moved on.
Yeah, and I don't really think they had a choice after what happened to them in Week 17. I think Pat McAfee, who's one of my favorite, national sports shows to listen to, he summed it up best early in the season when he said that Carson Wentz, when you watch him as a Colts fan, it's like a heart attack on every play. I mean, this dude is, sticking out his arm, pushing against the turf to keep himself up, and throwing from all these angles, and sometimes it works and it's exciting, and then other times it's a complete disaster. And he was sort of the ringleader of their debacle in Clown Town in Week 18 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, I mean, you just have to look at this as a failure all the way around. They gave up a first-round pick. They paid him a lot of money, and it barely lasted a year. And this is a big negative check mark. I remember in grade school you would get your name on the board when you misbehaved, and if you acted up again, you'd get a check mark. This is a check mark for Chris Ballard, who is going to have to make some good decisions this offseason, because that team is really not in a good place at this point.
Well, and they got, the coach of the year and the player of the year and the GM of the year. I got so sick of hearing all that last year, but right now, once again, they're looking for a quarterback. Luke Worsham, our guest here from A to Z Sports and No Nonsense Pod on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Luke, man, thanks for coming on. I'm trying to figure out, how do you evaluate really the GM and the head coach? I think they're both really good guys, as well as they're good at their job. But to me, if you have 6 different quarterbacks and 5, man, this is like unheard of. How do you think you're going to win games consistently if you keep changing the quarterback?
When you bring up the quarterback stat and that idea, a name that pops up is John Elway. You think about what he did with the Broncos and his failure to get a quarterback when he was their, personnel guy. Because for years they cycled through Trevor Siemian and Case Keenum and Paxton Lynch and Joe Flacco. And it was just bad over and over again until yesterday when, they managed to fix that problem pretty quickly. But the difference here between Ballard and John Elway is that John Elway always had a really great rest of the roster, always had great receivers, great defense. And the Colts are like, I'm perplexed as to how they had so many Pro Bowlers this past year. Like, you look at their roster and you say, well, Jonathan Taylor's obviously a very exciting player. Darius Leonard is a premier linebacker in the NFL. And you have to really like DeForest Buckner. Okay, that's 3 players. And they've got some talent at other positions, like Braden Smith, their right tackle, is a pretty good player. It's like, not only has the quarterback been subpar, they really haven't done a great job of building the rest of the roster. And I think my biggest complaint with Chris Ballard is he tends to be a sit-on-his-hands general manager. The Colts, after this Wentz trade, will have the most cap space in the NFL. And I want to say that last offseason they were in a very similar boat. If not first, they were second and third in cap space, and they did virtually nothing in free agency. Whereas you look at John Robinson with the Titans, and he's the prime example of see need, fill need. And so I don't get the hype for Chris Ballard. Like, he's certainly not been bad. Like, they're not a disaster. But it is a roster that is not very exciting, that is not very explosive. And on top of that, this quarterback stat you bring up of they've had 6 different years in a row with the different starting quarterback.
Yeah, that's just baffling anyway. But good for them and great for the Titans for them continue to play Russian roulette with their quarterback. But where were you at on the Landry deal? I guess talk about the deal. Did you think they will be able to bring him back? Did you want them to bring him back? And how did they manage a $5 million cap number?
Yeah,
here in the
I
first
always thought that this was going to happen. I think they liked Harold Landry too much. Sort of reading into the tea leaves, the reports we were getting, the things that were being said publicly from Robinson and Vrabel carried a very different tone to me than what was coming out last year at this time about Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith, where back then I always sort of felt like they were on their way out the door. The cap hit is interesting because the report from Paul Kaharski is that he's going to have just over $5 million against the cap. And that gives them more flexibility heading into free agency. I wrote this morning that I don't think they're going to all of a sudden say, well, let's go get Allen Robinson or someone that's going to cost a lot of money. But I think what it might do is save someone a spot on the Titans, someone where before they were able to work out that lower cap hit they were looking at as a potential casualty. They might say, well, we can afford to keep this guy around. Or maybe they now re-sign Ben Jones, whereas with a bigger number such as the franchise tag, they wouldn't have been able to do that. So I think that's the cap impact. And as for just the overall decision to bring Landry back, I think you had to do it because of what that pass rush meant to this team last year. It was the driving force of this team because most of the season the offense was very problematic, right? We've talked on here about they only scored on opening drives 3 out of 18 games, and one of those was a field goal. And so it was that pass rush that really kept the Titans in games. It was lethal. 9 sacks, of course, in the playoff game against the Bengals. And you can't break that up. You can't voluntarily say, you know what, we'll take our chances with whatever happens in the draft and next year with Rashad Weaver maybe. You got to keep that group together. And the Titans are going to be exponentially better in 2022 because they have Landry, Dupree, Autry, and Simmons versus if they were going into this season with one of those guys not there.
Going with Luke Worsham, covers the Titans for A to Z. I guess one more for me, and then that is, what's the ripple down effect for signing Harold Landry? I mean, who's coming and who's going? That's kind of what I'm thinking here on the offense and defense. Who do you think may get cut, and who do you think they may sign? Maybe they're still currently on the roster, giving them an extension.
Yeah, I think this bodes well for Ben Jones, who's someone that I've kind of been on the fence about. I've yet to really share an opinion about whether I think they should re-sign Ben Jones because I'm sort of on the fence about it. I think this small cap figure potentially opens the door for that to be a good idea. I think someone else sneakily that this could open the door for is Dane Cruikshank. He's someone that was very strong as a safety for them in 2021 after really 3 disappointing years to start his career. In 2021, he's a great weapon that they used against tight ends, and I don't know that he's going to have a big line of suitors. And so, maybe this Landry thing frees up $3, $4, $5 million to spend on keeping him around and allowing him to continue in his role. And also, like I was talking about, maybe this keeps someone from being cut. We talk a lot about Taylor Lewan and Roger Saffold being potential cap casualties, and those are the obvious ones. But there are other ones you could talk about, too, that perhaps stick around now. I mean, I remember last year the Dennis Kelly thing came totally out of nowhere when they released him to save cap space. And so maybe this Landry thing prevents something like that from happening as well.
Well, Luke Worsham covers the Titans for A to Z.
I saw you tweet earlier today you're in the Keep Julio camp, right?
Yes. So there's this really confusing conversation going around about a post-June 1st cut, and for fear of getting too scientific, I won't dive into that. But basically, there's no way heading into free agency that the Titans can save money by cutting Julio. Again, the scientific explanation about June 1st, that affects them later on down the road. But just know there's nothing they can do to save money for free agency next week by moving on from Julio Jones. And so that being the case, I don't know why you would move on from him. Like, yes, he was wildly disappointing in 2021. No one is debating that. But I don't think you really gain anything by moving on from him because I don't know what you would be using that money on when you would get it in June or July. So I just don't think there's a whole lot of logic there. It seems like a very knee-jerk decision based on the fact that he was disappointing in his first year.
So Tannehill's staying. That was a fun little diversion for some people more than others to talk about. And Logan Woodside got his 1 year tendered, or his 1 year contract today as an ERFA. So those two guys are back. Would you be shocked to see the Titans take a quarterback at 26 if it's Matt Corral or Desmond Ridder or whomever, especially after hearing J-Rob speak at the Combine? Did any of your thoughts change, or what do you think about the possibility of a quarterback at 26?
I don't know. I think it's an interesting question. I don't know that I would be surprised. I guess it comes down to, do you think they're going to do that? Like, is that a reasonable expectation? That sounds like a legal term, like from a contract, reasonable expectation. But that's really what we're asking here, right? Is there a reasonable expectation of them doing that? And right now I just say no. What I go back to is the quote that John Robinson gave Ben Arthur of the Tennessean when he said, I don't know how many more times I have to say it. Ryan's our quarterback. He knows how much he means to us, and so on and so on. And when I read that quote in Ben's story, I just kind of thought, I don't think there's another plan. There's no plan B. And I think they just have they need bodies at positions that are going to play. Traditionally, too, John Robinson has used the first round to fill snaps. He looks for best player available in depth and the successors often at other positions. But if you look back at his first-round history, even with the injured guys, it is at a position of need. It is at a position where he can get snaps out of that player, and quarterback would certainly fall outside of that principle, that historical precedent.
So adding to that, though, Luke, when do you start addressing and trying to build for your future quarterback? When is the right time?
I don't know. Maybe next year, right? I just don't know that if you're going all in on Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, and the discourse from Vrabel and Robinson has consistently been since that playoff loss, well, we've got to get better around Tannehill. We've got to support him. We've got to elevate him. We've got to bring him up. Like, I don't know how you can talk about all of that and then enter the draft and look for his replacement. It's not so much would it make sense, because frankly, if they like Matt Corral, draft Matt Corral, right? Absolutely. But in terms of predicting what's going to happen, I just don't think it lines up with what they've talked about. And what you tell the press doesn't necessarily have to mean 100% what you fully believe. But again, it's just been such a constant stream of get better around Tannehill, support him, bring him up, that I just would be surprised if their actions, more so perhaps in free agency, but in the draft too, aren't looking to get better around him as opposed to eventually replacing him right now.
Luke Worsham, our guest here on Blaine and Mickey.
All right, Luke, put on your GM hat. You and Lucas, he's your assistant here, you youngsters. Tell us, what would you do at this point based off the roster that is assembled? What would you address first?
In the draft or free agency?
In free agency and the draft.
I think it's receiver. I think
in free agency or draft
bodies there.
Okay.
Really both. I think you have to double dip there. Don't you think, Lucas?
Yeah, I would agree. I think my first course of action, though, is to go ahead and cut Jackrabbit Jenkins. That feels like the biggest layup of saving cap space right now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an easy $6 million, considering he probably won't even start with Caleb Farley, Christian Fulton, and Elijah Molden. But, if they're going into week one like they did last year with Chester Rogers as a preferred option in 11 personnel with three wide receivers, that's going to be a problem. They can't let that happen again. And I love the stories about guys like Nick Westbrook-Akina and the others who stepped up in the face of injury last year. But even so, there were entirely too many times where players were having to play a bigger role than they should have. And that went beyond just the volume of injuries. That went to a lack of depth and a lack of preparedness, really.
So what do you think everybody wants, and that is the fan base I'm getting at, is a tight end? How would you address it?
In free agency, a guy that I kind of like for the Titans is C.J. Uzomah, because I think the biggest thing they need at tight end is versatility. They need someone who they can put out there that is not going to scream, run, or pass as Jeff Swaim and Anthony Ferkser did in 2021, like, a blinking signal, hey, we're about to run the ball, hey, we're about to throw the ball. And I think Uzomah is someone that can do that. He can play in the run game, he can block, but he's also capable in the passing game. And look, you're not going to find, Travis Kelce or George Kittle in free agency, but I think that in terms of pure versatility, Uzomah can check those marks. And then I think you circle back in the draft and maybe get two more guys in the draft, because they're going to have enough picks to double dip at some positions, I think. And that's obviously, well down the road, but they've got to be intentional about getting that tight end room fixed, because this isn't just my cynicism. I think anyone, probably Robinson and Vrabel too, would agree that was pretty clearly the worst position on the team last year.
Got you.
Luke, good stuff, man. People need to be following you if they want to know what's going on with the Titans. At Luke_Worsham, of course, on all your A to Z sports platforms, or on the No Nonsense Pod. Thank you, buddy. Always good to catch up with you.
Appreciate it, Luke.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, when we come back, if the Titans had a team meeting tomorrow, this position group room would be completely empty. Because of free agency, nobody exists at this position. I'll tell you next.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
Kick.
Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. So Titans, there's basically three kind of free agents. There's the unrestricted free agent. There's the exclusive rights free agent and a restricted free agent. So the Titans today have signed three of their exclusive rights free agents, meaning they got 2 years or less of service. So you just offer them a 1-year deal at the minimum, and you get to keep them. As Blaine pointed out, just another way to make sure everybody gets that 3 years, minimum salary deal, because that's about how long the average career lasts. But it's
if you're undrafted or late draft. Yeah.
NWI, who gets his deal, Logan Woodside, who's just not going anywhere, as well as Tier Tart, the defensive lineman. Derek Roberson is a restricted rights free agent. They had to basically offer him a contract that he could go shop. They didn't, which means he instantly becomes unrestricted, so he can go do what he wants when the new league year starts. NWI was second on the team with catches 38, with yards 476, and with touchdowns 4. NWI was second in all three of those things.
How many yards did he have?
He had 476.
He almost had 500 yards.
Yep.
That's a big-time number 3 wide receiver in my mind. Mm-hmm.
His agent's like, hey, man, you just going to have to eat this 1-year sandwich. But next year, you start doing stuff like this, you can get some real money.
Oh, yeah. Guess what he's saying also? Don't get hurt. Because he wants to collect on that big contract you about to get. 3%.
Marcus Johnson and Chester Rogers, unrestricted. Cam Batson is a restricted free agent, meaning they can make him some kind of offer. Nick Westbrook got his deal. For the tight ends, Ferkser, unrestricted. Swaim, unrestricted. Michael Pruitt, unrestricted.
And injured.
Yeah, boy, his foot did the thing where it's facing the wrong way. Ola Adaney's an unrestricted free agent. It'd be interesting because he's a solid special teams player, borderline Pro Bowler. Be interested to see what happens with him. And yeah, I don't know if people heard you yell this, but you yelled it right as we hit the break. They don't have a kicker right now. They don't have a kicker. Remember last year, the anxiety that people have, then they get Ficken, and Ficken gets hurt, and then Randy Bullock just kind of rides in and takes care of
This is 2 years
kicking.
in a row, by the way. We kind of do the kicking game ever since Suck Up.
Year by year.
Suck Up. We kind of do just like the coach with the quarterback. I value the kicking game, especially these games are so close. To me, the kicker would be a priority in my mind, but they may address it with another veteran or another, maybe even draft. I doubt it, but there's always going to be some kickers out there, that's for sure.
Randy Bullock is unrestricted. Sam Ficken is a restricted rights free agent, meaning, again, they would have to offer him something that he could shop and come back or not come back, and depending on what you offer him, how much you offer him, what level of a free agent tender, you would get some compensation in between. But all that starts with them having enough value in Sam Ficken to try to keep him around. Do you just offer Randy Bullock something to try to keep him around? He was $1,075,000 last year. You say, hey, how about two?
Yeah, I would, but I don't know what else is out there, what's available. But it's always something if you want to be comfortable. They know what he can. Because you said Brett Kern is not a free. He has 1 more year on his deal.
He's not a free agent. Nope.
All right. So I would try to keep those guys together.
The long snapper is a free agent too. Morgan Cox.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Unrestricted free agent. He made 1.2 last year. Would say, how about 1.5 to run it back again? We never said his name, which means he did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Never mentioned him.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
He's had a great career, man.
He'd been a Pro Bowler. I mean, no sign whatsoever of letting up. There were 0 issues with snaps. Why don't you just say, like, okay, run it back? Same. How about a 250 bump, How about?
Because most teams already have that player, so it's not like they're, maybe another team out there that need a long snap.
He's in his home state, too.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm interested in this trick question you always use, try to use against me at the end of the shows, man.
I don't have any more. You knew this one today. Which room doesn't have anybody under contract?
The kicker was right.
His kicker is right.
Oh, okay.
No kicker's under contract.
Yeah,
Punter is. No kicker, no snapper. Brett Kern is like Fresh Prince looking around the empty room when
thinks
everybody
about those
moved out of
positions
Bel Air.
until you miss a kick or a bad snap. Then you're like, what happened? The snap was horrible.
No horrible snaps last
Yeah.
year.
Well, guess what's not horrible, Mickey? The weather. It is nice outside. Finally, it's sunny again.
Time to take
It's-
Rabble to baseball
It's gonna
practice.
get hot, and then it's gonna get cold.
It's
then
gonna
hot
snow.
and cold.
Yeah.
70 to 30.
So enjoy today, people.
In the
Get out
meantime,
there.
in between time.
Yes, sir. Peace.